Okay, I'll call tonight's regular meeting of council to order. Recommendation that the regular meeting of council be suspended and the committee of the whole meeting be convened. Moved by Councillor Adie, second by Councillor Randhawa. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Call tonight's committee of the whole meeting to order. Recommendation that the agenda for the committee of the whole meeting of August 23rd, 2021 be adopted as circulated. Moved by Councillor Cunningham, second by Councillor Randhawa. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, first up we have a delegation. Charlie Madison, the architect at AIBC, Bonnie Madison, architects, regarding the CN building. Welcome.
Dwayne, can you unmute Mr. Madison, please? Charlie, you can hear us?
Yes, yeah, loud and clear. Thanks, Rosa.
Great, you can take it away, Charlie.
Okay, so thanks very much, Mayor and Council. It was interesting. I sat through your earlier meeting. Very good dialogue on the housing project. I'm here just to present the progress on the CN Station project. As you're aware, we applied for a development permit recently, and the documents that have been submitted are our development permit application. I'd like to share my screen. I've put together a little presentation that can sort of walk us through how we got where we are today and where we're headed. So with your permission, I'll share my screen. So I'll start at the beginning of this little document. So this, can you see my screen now? Okay, great. So I've just put together some images that are partly our development permit application and partly some photographs of the existing building, some historical photographs of the building. So that'll just help with this dialogue. This is the cover page of our development permit application that's been submitted to the city. This is a little rendering on the cover sheet of the building with the addition of its little rooftop patio on the single-story portion of the building. So as council is aware, we were hired in 2020, early in 2020, to work on this renovation and rehabilitation of the CN station. We put together a team of consultants, including geotechnical, structural, mechanical, electrical, and a heritage consultant to work with us on this adaptive reuse of the CN station building down on the waterfront. I have to say that in all of my years working in Prince Rupert, I find this project probably the most exciting project in terms of what I think will happen once we get this building operating down on the waterfront in conjunction with, obviously, with the remainder of the work that's going to be done on the waterfront. I think this is going to be a huge catalyst to get activity back down on the waterfront in a real serious way. So as you know, we've been working on this project since early in 2020. COVID has slowed us down a little bit during that time. But with the hiring of the Colliers Group as our project managers on behalf of the city, and the appointment of our construction managers, Coast Shimshan Northern Contractor Alliance, we've been making great progress. We have an integrated project team that reports to a steering committee that's made up of senior executives at the city. So I think that some of you have probably seen some of these images, early images of the CN building, but I think this is one of the most remarkable pictures of the building, taken in 1922, just when the building was being completed. And you can see the active warehouse on the waterfront, on the wharf, and then the CN station building in the foreground. if some of you didn't know, the way you used to access this building was you walked across this elevated trestle that crossed over the railway tracks. And at the end of the trestle, you went down a set of stairs and you ended up on the second floor of the station where the ticketing occurred on the upper floor. And then there was a major straight staircase that continued down to the ground floor where there were waiting rooms on either end of the building, one for men and one for women. A very unique way of coming into a building, entering it on the second floor. This is a wonderful photograph. And you can see in the very early rendition of the building, it had a long, extensive covered walkway that paralleled the railway tracks. So when you were waiting to board the train, you had a significant covered area. All of that canopy has now been lost, but the structure that supported it, the stone structure that supported it, along with its knee braces, still is intact as part of the building. You can see that the original building was exactly as it was. The masonry part of the building was exactly as it is now, with the two-story structure in behind the trestle and the single-story portion on the south on the south end of the building. This photograph is revealing, this is a very early photograph as well, probably taken during construction. And it's revealing in that it shows the very original electric lights that were part of the building, this row of electric lights on the lower that run underneath the canopy. And it had two principal entrances, one here and one at the far end of the building, symmetrically located in the masonry building. A lot of the detailing that we see in the building now is still intact, using these stone lintels for window sills and window headers, and a very pronounced cornice on the top of the building. This is another great photograph, probably familiar to most of you, but this is a photograph taken in 1935 of the water side of the CN station building, showing in detail the way the canopy worked. And you can see a canopy in the distance on the far end of the building. These canopies were actually glazed. They had glass panels in the roof of them, and they drained inward towards the building. And these were four of Prince Rupert's finest there. Here's a picture that was probably taken in the 1970s or 1980s, based on the vehicle that's just barely visible in the corner, and as well the rendition of the train engine. But this was a shot of, you could see that the canopy that used to cover the railway walkway used to extend beyond the single-story portion of the building. And at some time, I think in the 50s or 60s, a wood frame structure was tacked on the north end of the building that has since been demolished. This picture also shows that at that time, the hydro lines for the building were all overhead, and those have since been put underground. And there was some form of telegraph communication tower that was behind the building on the waterfront. This photograph was taken when I first got involved with this project back in 2016. We looked at this on behalf of the city when the building was being contemplated for a renovation by private entrepreneurs. The building remains pretty much as shown in this picture. It's been further protected with some more plywood on the windows and further boarded up. But these shots show it as it was in 2016. At that time, the windows were not protected with plywood. They are now. This is the north end of the building where the small wooden structure was attached. You can see in this photograph the line where the old single-story building was built up against the end of the building. And at some point, someone knocked in a new door opening through this north wall. As part of the restoration, we're gonna replace this window. It'll match the window on the left, and then we'll properly repair this door opening. So that was just a little introduction on the kind of history of the building and its conditions over time. This set of drawings that I'll go through now is our development permit set of documents. As you're aware, the building has a 4,000 square foot footprint on the ground floor. That includes the little single story portion on the south end. And the upper floor in the 2-story portion is 3,200 square feet. And with the addition of this conservatory that we are proposing on the top of the single story building, it too will be 4,000 square feet or just slightly less when constructed. This is our civil site plan for the project. The orientation is showing due north at the very top of the page. The property consists of this property line that's shown in blue on the civil site plan. So quite an odd shape where it goes to a very pointed configuration at the very north end of the site. The building is quite tight to its property line. We have 14 feet from the back of the building to the railway tracks. And we have only just 7 feet from the face of the building to the property line at the front, and slightly more where the building recesses between the 2 front entry doors. With the help of Hans Seidemann and Paul Vinditelli, we've managed to explore and research our sewer and storm connection, which is shown here between the building and the waterfront. And we have a water main here right in front of the building. We have potential power supply from BC Hydro here to the north of the site and down here to the south in the waterfront park. Excuse me. This is our architectural site plan, which shows a little bit more of the waterfront park. We're going to take advantage of this, excuse me, this existing parking arrangement that exists now, and add some parallel parking along the tracks. Excuse me, I'm just going to get some water. Sorry for that interruption. So we're going to have some parallel parking that we'll employ along parallel to the railway tracks. We're going to have a loading dock here at the end of the building. Most of the servicing, delivery, and loading will happen along the track side of the building. And as most of you are aware, there's going to be a new road constructed right in front of the CN station building that's going to lead to the new ferry terminal, which will be just off of this drawing. This drawing shows the roof plan of the building, and we'll get into that as we look at the detailed drawings. This portion of the site we hope to be able to use when the first tenant uses the building for staff parking and deliveries until such time as the ferry terminal is developed and the road in front of the building is pushed through to the new ferry terminal. This is a very interesting drawing. This is the original foundation plan for the building. And one of the things that we have to do with the reconstruction of the building is we have to seismically upgrade the building. And to seismically upgrade a masonry building involves quite a bit of of work, and I'll try and explain some of that because it's proving to be more a greater portion of the building project cost than originally anticipated. Having said that, that work is well underway in terms of design, and within the next month, we're going to be actually beginning that seismic upgrade. So this is the foundation plan, and I'll share with you in a few minutes the new design for that foundation. So now we're getting into the meat of the building. This is the ground floor plan. And as most everyone is aware, the Wheelhouse Brewery will be the first tenant in the building. And to accommodate them, what we are doing, their brewery operation is going to be in the north end of the building in the first bay of the building. But to accommodate the height of their brewery vessels in this end, we're going to remove the second floor out of this bay so that these towers can fit into the building. And then the production on the ground floor stretches behind here with their packing and canning operation. And then their keg cooler sits behind their taps bar. So essentially the back of house and on the track side is all production and back of house, whereas the front area leading in from the front door that we'll use here and leading in through the retail portion of the building and their communal seating arrangement, and then public washrooms. We have 3 gender neutral washrooms, one of them being accessible. And then in the single story building at this end, we have a small commercial kitchen that will serve the patrons. There's a stair here that comes up and goes around and up to the second floor. There's a staff washroom and some janitorial facilities and an electrical room on the ground floor. The outside of the building, as I said, we have 7 feet of property that we enjoy from the face of the building to the proposed road to the new ferry terminal. And this area will be used between the 2 projections of the building on the water side. This area will be used as an exterior patio. With some luck, we may be able to get a cover over it, but we are intending to restore the entrance canopy over this door and flag it with signage for the brewery. When we move up to the second floor, you come up the stairs here, new set of stairs that brings you up to the second floor. The interesting feature on the second floor is the enclosure of this single story portion of the building with a new glazed wall system and a new metal roof on top of it with skylights in that roof. And this will be really the kind of feature place for the brewery with overview to the harbor. And all of these windows, will set up these windows to be operable. So this will feel like you're outside in the decent weather. The brewery will enjoy an office upstairs and a meeting and staff room, a washroom to serve the patio upstairs. And then the 2-story space at this end of the building, which will house the tops of the brewery vats, will also connect to this area where the brewery will store its grains, and the grains will be fed down into the production from above. This is a new set of steel stairs that we're going to build on the back of the building that will allow access up to this floor, as well as a means of egress, a second means of egress from the upper floor. This space we are referring to as other at the moment. There is a potential for a residential component upstairs, or a caretaker suite or something like that. This is the roof plan that I mentioned earlier that shows on our architectural site plan. The roof, so this piece of the roof on the main building is being rebuilt. And and re-sloped and re-insulated. And then this drawing shows the mechanical equipment that will be positioned on the roof, as well as the potential for future solar panels on this portion. This is the flat roof of the conservatory with some skylights over that space. And then these are the building renderings. The color rendition on the computer isn't very good, but we're not changing the color of the building by any means. We're maintaining the existing masonry, and it will be cleaned. And it will end up being a kind of a little bit more sandy color than it shows now in its present condition when the building is cleaned and the masonry is repointed. So interestingly, over time, windows and doors have been swapped around in the building. Some of the openings which were windows originally have become doors, and vice versa. Our heritage consultant is very kind of cooperative about that. It's not a strict rule about how to do the restoration, because we're not doing a truly historical restoration. We're doing adaptive reuse of the building. So he's very kind of lenient about how we do it. The doors and windows will actually serve the brewery tenant inside for their layout on the inside. For instance, on the back of the building, we're going to take this opening next to the new stairs, and we're going to put a rolling door in here, a rolling shutter door that accesses the production portion of the brewery. So there are some very significant heritage elements in the windows and the old freight doors that will be restored as part of the project, and then reused perhaps in different locations than they are now. So this little conservatory is meant to be a very light and airy space with a very kind of light roof on it, and is supposed to help you feel that you're outside when it will be an enclosed space, but with lots of operable windows. And then this final drawing in this little set are the building sections. And when I show you the structural drawings, I'll talk a little bit about these big seismic braces that we have to install in the building. So they're part of the seismic upgrade. These are metal frames that will be implemented both on the ground floor and on the second floor, in certain locations, not everywhere. So this upper drawing is a section through the length of the building, with the conservatory on the upper left and the commercial kitchen below it. This is a section cut through the stairs that come up from the ground floor. This would be the little reception meeting room on the upper floor. And then this is the production space that's connected to the two-story space, and then the production back of house on the ground floor. This section would be with the track on the left and the waterfront on the right. This one is the reverse of that. So this is a section through production, and similarly the production where the grain is stored upstairs. This is the space that has been labeled other until the use is determined. And then this is the front of house, the kind of bar area on the water side, and you can see the entry canopy on the front of the building. This drawing is essentially the reverse of that, with a section through one of the washrooms, and again a portion of the front of house, and then this is in the back of house in the single story portion. So this would be the commercial kitchen, and then upstairs is the enclosed conservatory patio. There is an existing chimney behind this wood stove here that was shown on the patio, and we intend to reuse that chimney flue. Going away, going away from the architecture for just a minute. This is a drawing that shows the seismic upgrade of the building. These yellow / orange lines represent new grade beams that are going to be built. We're going to remove the concrete slab from the building entirely in both the single and the two-story portion of the building, and essentially rebuild the foundation. So these orange lines represent a grid of new grade beams that will be supported on micropiles, and then the slab will be replaced above this grid. As I mentioned, there's a requirement for this steel bracing. So there's actually a steel brace on this grid line, number 4, and then down through the middle of the building, and then returning in a Z fashion on this grid line, number 2. And coincident with those braces are these diagonal members that go from floor to ceiling, both on the ground floor and the upper floor. One of the things that we're doing on the structural side as part of the structural upgrade is we have to, not only do we have to brace the building for seismic reasons, but we have to support the exterior masonry walls with we have to support the bricks, so the bricks themselves don't fall down, because they don't have any resistance to the seismic movement if the building were to move. So the proposal right now is to build up against the masonry wall a steel stud wall that's pinned back to the masonry on the inside in repeating intervals. This steel stud wall will be insulated and vapor barriered and drywalled on the inside to provide the thermal insulation that we need. But this system of steel studs will run around the entire perimeter of the building and brace these two-story masonry walls. This line in this drawing is actually the roof line, and up on the roof we will also have a series of braces that support the roof parapet on the upper portion. This set of drawings is fairly well developed, and this will form the first portion of the work. You can see in these structural details the thickness of the grade beams that are going to be employed on the ground floor, and these little drawings off to the left show the micropile installation that supports the grade beams. The underside of the existing slab in the CN station, we've learned has voids under the existing slab, and there's portions of the building the building is supported on existing grade beams with existing concrete columns that go down to bedrock. So the building has apart from the single story section, the building has never settled. It's well founded, but it never had any seismic ability that meets the present day codes. So that's why there's this extensive work going on the ground floor. So probably with that ramble, I'm certainly welcome any questions about anything that I've talked about or shown.
Thank you very much. This is a very exciting project, and great work to you and your team, Mr. Madison, because that's very thorough. Is there questions from council? Go ahead.
Here's Gurvinder here. Thanks for your presentation. Can you talk a little bit more about the foundation? Like foundation is good, or we need like a new foundation there?
I'm sorry, I was having difficulty hearing the question.
He's asking about, you have to turn your mic off. He's asking about, is it going to be like a new foundation in the building?
Okay, so I could I can show you more of this particular set of drawings, because this is the set of drawings that we'll use for our building permit, our foundation permit drawings. So the colored drawing that I showed you earlier with the orange and yellow lines is actually this drawing. But but I colored it because this drawing has so many lines on it, it's a little bit hard to read. But as I mentioned, we're gonna cut the slab out of the existing building and remove it, both in the single-story portion of the building at this end, as well as in the main portion of the building here. And then to reinforce the building seismically, we build this new perimeter grade beam that goes all the way around the building, around the perimeter. It crosses the short distance of the building here, and there's a grade beam that runs down the middle of the building. And then in this portion of the building, there's a grade beam that surrounds the perimeter on the inside. And then at all of these nodes where the grid lines meet, all of the nodes underneath the grade beam are going to be a series of micropiles. On the outside wall, there's a single micropile. In the middle of the building, there are actually a pair of micropiles. So first they'll go in and set the micropiles, then they'll form the grade beams, and then they'll pour the concrete grade beams around the perimeter of the building. And then the floor slab will be put in back into the building, and it'll be a suspended slab. It'll actually be supported on the grade beams and the micropiles. So we'll end up with a completely new floor system on the ground floor. And it will be supported for dead load on the micropiles that will be bearing on the bedrock underneath the building. And those micropiles will be different lengths depending on where they are. For instance, from historic drawings, we know that this north corner of the building here on the track side is fairly shallow to bedrock. At the other end of the building on the single-story side, on the south and water side of the building, the existing concrete pillars are quite deep to bedrock. So it varies depending where you are on how much effort's going to be involved in supporting the slab. This drawing also shows that when we reform the slab, the floor slab, we're going to have a new trench drain system in the production area of the building for the brewery. So this L-shaped line here is a set of floor drains, trench drains that are in the production area. This drawing shows the structural steel that will be employed at the second floor level. So in the single-story building, we're creating a new steel frame on the interior of the masonry with columns in every corner and columns at the midpoints on these walls. And that steel frame will be 2 stories high and carry the roof that's going to go over the new outdoor patio above. The roof of the single-story building has collapsed, so it needs to be reconstructed anyway. So we'll build a new floor at the second floor level for this outdoor patio space under the conservatory. But it'll be supported on a new steel frame that's interior to the masonry. So we won't be relying, in this portion of the building, we won't be relying on the masonry to support the new second floor, nor the roof. It'll all be independent of that structure. Similarly, we have this main structural line that runs down the middle of the building floor plan, and it's a steel frame that ties together with the existing steel beams that run in the other direction. In the 2-story space where we're removing the floor, we're going to have another steel frame that runs around the perimeter of this space, as well as a beam flying across this at the second floor level to support these walls, which will then become 2-story tall in this end of the building. We employed a lumber grader from Paris who came to the CN station, and he actually graded all of the existing wood that supports the second floor, so the second floor joist, as well as the roof joist. And apart from the members that had been damaged by water over time, due to roof leaks and floor leaks. All of the floor joists for the second floor and for the roof are considered number one structural material because of their age. They're all clear fir joists that were cut back in 1920 when the building was built. So that's a significant advantage for us. We'll have to do some upgrades. There was a very bad leak over here by the stair where the chimney is that damaged some of the floor joists in this area. So there will be some repair and sistering up of existing floor joists, but for the most part, they're going to serve us very well. This is the roof plan. Again, this drawing shows that steel brace that's going to run down the middle of the building on the second floor, which in turn is connected to these steel beams, which are existing steel beams in the existing building. And the roof joists, the main roof joists, run in this direction across those steel beams. As we've said, this space will be without floor in this end of the building to accommodate the brewery. And then this drawing on this end shows the roof plan for the conservatory with the skylight sections cut out of it in 3 locations. And then we will reinforce the roof structure so that we can have these mechanical units on the roof as well as the solar stuff. So you can see in these drawings that, for instance, this little detail number 2 in the upper right corner, this is the existing grade beam that supports the existing masonry wall. And it has an upstand on it, and then the masonry wall sits on this pilaster. The grade material is our new grade beam on the inside of the building that's supported by a micropile. It's poured right into that grade beam. And this line that you see here is our new stud wall that's going to be on the inside of the masonry. So the dead load of that new stud wall is carried by this new grade beam that's poured on the inside face of the building. This drawing shows, this little detail number 5 shows where we're going to do a trench drain. We have to actually increase the depth of the floor slab to allow for that material loss at that level. And this is a trench drain in the other direction where that slab is actually a little bit shallower. And then there's details that show the reinforcing that's required, where we have a steel column coming down, and it needs to be pinned to the new grade beam. And again, these are some of the details. The details in the upper left-hand corner show what happens for the structural upgrades in plan view. So this is a steel column that also gets fixed to the masonry wall with these masonry ties. They drill through the brickwork and then tie the new steel column to the wall. And that steel column is in line with the steel stud wall that we will insulate and drywall on the inside. So those are part of those plan details. This is where we have a concrete block wall or a tile wall, and this is where we have a pilaster where we have actually 3 rows of bricks forming the wall structure. Again, this is this detail which shows the steel stud wall up against the masonry wall. And then the reinforcing, there's blocking that's required at the floor level to tie the floors into the masonry as well, both at the roof level and at the second floor level. These are slightly simpler sections, but you see the concept in plan here, in plan view, and then in elevation again. There's a section line shown here, so the second floor isn't shown in this drawing. But in the case of the brewery in the north end of the building, this would be a 2-story high wall with the parapet extending above the roof level. So I hope that answered some more of your questions about foundation.
Thank you very much. I think at this point, Mr. Madison, I have some questions, I think, for city staff, but we have it on our agenda tonight at item 4C, so we'll reserve it for there. But I think we're good on questions. I just want to thank you and your staff for time, and I'll ask that at this meeting. Yeah. And your team's done a phenomenal job. The design looks awesome. I'm very stoked for the what do you call it, a conservancy? Or the rooftop patio. That looks amazing. So yeah, great job. It's going to be a great historical build. And again, I have some questions, I think, for staff around financing and schedules and stuff like that, but we'll reserve that for our regular meeting. Is there anything else on your end, Mr. Madison?
No, that was it from me. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Great work. Thank you again. We'll be talking to you again soon. Okay.
All right.
You
Thank you all.
have a great evening. Okay, moving on. The entire member of the audience has left, unless there's anyone in the audience that has something they would like to talk to council about this evening. And I'm having a feeling that those aren't there. So I'd entertain a motion to adjourn the committee of the whole and reconvene the regular meeting. Moved by Councilor Renhowa, second by Councilor 80. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, recommendation that the agenda for the regular council meeting of August 23rd, 2021 be adopted with addition item 5C, official community plan amendment application, bylaw number 3472-2021, and rezoning application ZBLA 2102, bylaw number 3473-2021. Moved by Councilor Cunningham, second by Councilor Skelton Morvan. That's the 60-unit hotel on Park Avenue. My understanding is that we've got a traffic report that was sent to us at 3 o'clock today and is able to be on the agenda for this evening. So item 3A, recommendation that the meeting minutes of the special council meeting of July 26, 2021 be adopted. Moved by Councilor Cunningham, second by Councilor Skelton Morvan. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Item 3B, recommendation of the minutes of the regular council meeting of July 26, 2021 be adopted. Moved by Councilor Cunningham, second by Councilor Renhowa. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Item 3C, recommendation that the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting of July 26, 2021 be adopted. Moved by Councilor Moreau, second by Councilor Skelton Morvan. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. First up, we have a report from our Chief Financial Officer regarding the June 2021 financial variance report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We are halfway through the year, and operating and utility revenues and expenses continue to perform as expected compared to budget. Capital projects are underway, given summer had just begun, with costs expected to come in later in the summer through the fall. The dam and landfill cell are proceeding and are anticipated to be completed within the calendar year. This concludes my report.
Great, thank you. Any questions from council? Okay, we don't need a resolution for receiving the report, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, next we have a report from iPlan regarding DBP 2109 at 198 at Prince Boulevard. And we'll be doing some musical chairs here this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This application is for a variance for the property at 198 Prince Rupert Boulevard. The owner has constructed a carport in the wrong location and requires a variance to legalize its location. This in particular will require a side yard setback from the required 1.2 meters to 0. There are photos showing the carport that has been constructed.
Great, thank you. Any questions from council? No. Go ahead.
Not so much a question, but I kind of want to speak as to why I feel this is. It bothers me that someone puts up something on a weekend and then they don't have to go through the process properly. From my understanding, this doesn't meet. Turn your mic off. It doesn't meet code, which if this continues, then they would have to upgrade the stuff that was done. So it just bothers me that, that someone's gone ahead and just, constructed something without taking into factor, proper supports, proper building codes, and just done it on a weekend, and now they're asking for a variance. The whole idea of a variance is to actually apply for it and then get permission to build it if it's okay by the neighbors. But that being said, if we decide to go forward with this tonight, then I guess we'll end up leaving it to the neighbors like we do on other variance permits. So it just bothers me that someone it's build it and then ask for forgiveness. And the only reason why is that that it was caught that they were building this when they shouldn't have been building it.
Any other comments?
I'll move that it goes.
Okay, moved by Councillor Cunningham, seconded by Councillor Renhow. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Next, we have another report from iPlan regarding DP 2114 for 380 Bill Murray Drive.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that the architect has given a full review of the project. The only thing to add is that there is a variance required for the parking. If the property if there was road closed to include where the parking is actually being provided, there would be no variance required. So the required parking in terms of numbers are all there. That's required per the zoning bylaw. But for this to go ahead, council will need to give a variance.
Okay, great. I think there's a couple general comments about the project, not regarding the foundation, but around the schedule of events. Is there, from the city's perspective, so first things first, I mean, some of the questions that have been asked already when we posted that we did a 2-week notice, how is this project being paid for? And I think the answer is that we're paying with grant funding 100%, correct? Yeah, so just so that the community is clear that this is not being funded by taxpayers, that this is grant funding that the city has received that will be paying for the reconstruction of this building. But one of the questions that I had was, what does the staff feel is a realistic schedule in terms of how quickly this building would be actually in operation, given our thorough examination of what it's going to look like? So next September 2022. Oh, wow. Okay. That'll be exciting. Any other questions from council around this project? Not necessarily just the DP, but figured this is an opportunity to speak to this project. Any other councilors? Councilor Adie?
Just in listening to the presentation, it struck me that there is likely some questions around the project costs and the impact that might have. And I understand that you've pointed out that this is grant money, but at the same time, if there is a cost framework that requires adjustments, I'm not sure that the first thing that needs to happen is the allocation of parking spaces. It seems to me that given the timeline, we have quite a long time before we would have to commit to a variance on parking spaces based on the project, which may emerge adapted to whatever cost implications arise. So I'm just wondering. I'm wondering how other people feel about whether we need to do this tonight or whether it is something that can be a little later in the process.
Mr. Mayor, if I can answer the question. A building permit is going to need to be taken out for this, and you can't issue the building permit unless it's compliant with the zoning bylaw, hence the need for the development variance permit at this point.
Other questions? Councilor Niche.
Not so much a question, I just wanted to say that it's, you know, from a builder's perspective, it would probably be easier to knock the building down and build a new one exactly the same and probably way cheaper. But obviously, we know that historic value comes into play, and we have to take that into consideration. And obviously, with today's codes and building seismic upgrades and all the things necessary to make the building, you know, to today's codes, that is obviously going to drive the price up. You know, but that being said, I do feel that it's a great day that maybe today we are starting to move forward on, you know, not just that building, but the beginning of a new waterfront. I think our community has looked for years for something to happen down there, and I think this is only the beginning. So it's in my eyes, although it may be a little bit more expensive than if we were building a new building, this is about remembering the past also, and starting the future of a new waterfront. And I think this is going to be an amazing project if it goes ahead, and I'm looking forward to it, and I support it myself.
Thank you. And I think it's just to make some clarity as well that this project is separate from the is separate from the waterfront project that we announced with Kitkatla back at the Redesign Rupert 2030 launch, which is still in motion. And that project design for the entire waterfront area will be released hopefully by the end of the fall, where it will show the remainder of the waterfront site. So this is a separate project from that project, and that project is still in motion, and that entire waterfront is slated to be transformed. So those details and specifics will be released later this fall. I also just wanted to make note too, if you look at the background information here for this this project, that this brewery will also include food service. It's not going to be exclusively a brewery. It's going to be a food service as well. And my understanding is that they're looking to do Stonefire pizza and that kind of thing in the building. And also that there will be access for children to be able to access the building during the daytime, so that it's more, that the access is community-wide, not just for a certain demographic that like to go drink beer down at the waterfront. So that being said, I'm not sure, did I even get this on the floor yet, this motion? Anybody remember that? I've been talking. Okay. So we'll get a motion to approve the DP, moved by Councillor Niche, seconded by Councillor Moreau. It's been a long evening already. Is there any other questions regarding the project and this DP? Councillor?
Just one comment. You know, we've been talking about a lot of upgrades and projects in the city and that, and to sort of mirror what Councillor Nice said, this is something that is going to be nice. You can go down the waterfront with your family or without, and it's another destination in Prince Rupert. It's just going to be, it's sort of the first step in many steps, I hope, to see development around not just the waterfront but the whole town. But that building's been an eyesore for years, and you know, people thought it was just going to get torn down, and now here it's going to be renovated and it's going to be a showcase. So I think it's quite exciting.
Okay, I expect to see the entire paper have the Mr. Madison's report thoroughly covered, articulated in the in your next article about this project.
Leo by the first.
Okay, any other discussions on this DP? It's getting late. We're getting a little loopy here, eh?
CBC transcribed the whole thing, right? Yeah.
Okay, everybody all in favor? Anybody opposed? Great. Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, next is 5A. So I recommend that we table 5A until after the public hearing is adjourned. Moved by Councillor Niche, second by Councillor Scott Morvan. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Motion's carried. Next, we have a report from our Chief Financial Officer, our yearly permissive tax exemption bylaw number 3477, 2021.
Thank you. Council has the authority to grant an exemption from municipal property taxes under Section 224 of the Community Charter. In 2019, Council updated its permissive property tax exemption policy and adopted a permissive tax exemption bylaw that exempted places of worship for 8 years and other eligible properties for 4 years effective 2020. This amendment bylaw before Council seeks to change the location of one place of worship, the Congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses, and permissively exempt the sublease of space from the city at the Canfisco Warehouse for the Prince Rupert Gymnastics Association, as well as amend the business use of a small corner of the warehouse being subleased by the Wheelhouse Brewing Company. There is no budget impact given all proposed amendments are for properties that were already exempt. A notice will be placed in the paper in accordance with the notification requirements under Section 227 of the Community Charter. Any amendment to the permissive tax exemption bylaw must be adopted by October 31st in order to take effect for 2022. Council introducing and giving 3 readings to this bylaw will enable the city to proceed to meet the noted deadline.
Thank you. So entertain a motion that council give first, second, and third reading to the permissive tax exemption bylaw number 347721, 2021. Moved by Councillor Scott Morvan, second by Councillor Moreau. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. Next, we have a report from iPlan regarding the official community plan amendment application, bylaw number 3472, 2021, and rezoning application ZBLA 2102, bylaw number 3473, 2021, for the property legally described as Lot 2, District Lot 1992, Range 5, Coast District Plan 7225. So the recommendation is that council give fourth and final reading to the City of Prince Rupert Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw number 3472, 2021, and City of Prince Rupert Zoning Bylaw number 3462, 2021, Amendment Bylaw number 3473, 2021. Moved by Councillor Scott Morvan, seconded by Councillor Niche. Okay, we had a public hearing, we did third reading. Is there other discussions from council on this proposed project on Park Avenue? Councillor Niche.
I just wanted to say that, from a housing perspective, we had this big discussion tonight with our, public hearing for another housing project, and although this may be not actual housing, it is more of a short-term housing or travelers accommodation, and I just think that we're in a time in this town where we need as many housing projects, whether it's low income, whether it's houses, whether it's hotels, whether it's whatever it is. We're at a time where it's needed at all levels, and I fully support this project.
Other comments from council?
Just, I'd like to thank the developer for his patience while we went through this.
Any other comments from council? All those in favor? Anybody opposed? Motion's carried. Project is approved. Okay. Any reports, questions, or inquiries from members of council? Councillor Eadie.
I just wanted to say that I had a chance to go through the urban garden last week. I was curious enough, and there was people working, so they were gracious enough to give me a tour. And I have to say, I was incredibly impressed with not only the energy and commitment of the people behind it, but also the diversity of what they're able to grow there. And I think it's tremendously encouraging to know that so much of what you find in grocery stores, produce aisle, can actually be grown here if one is so inclined to give it a go. It really is you take a relatively vacant city block now, and you go by there, you see something growing there, which I think is symbolically kind of cool. But in practice, it's a really good project. I was really, really pleased to see it.
Thank you. Other reports from council?
Just one quick question. Where are we with Northern Health coming before council?
I just received an email this evening that Chiro would like to have a conversation prior to setting a meeting date, so we'll organize that for September.
Thank you. Any other comments from council?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A few weeks ago, I had a chance to attend Alta Gas hold a gathering to showcase their facility with the emergency response, and they show like all the how they do the and they did exercise, and then all local emergency responders like Alta Gas, Principal Fire Hall, local RCMP, Port Ed Fire Hall, Coast Guard, and ambulance, they all work together, and they show how they can work on in case any emergency. So it was amazing, and to see all the partners working together and feel very comfortable with their emergency response. And on top, other thing, emergency, right? So like our Councillor Cunningham just asked, like people have questions about the Northern Health, especially about the ambulance service right now these days. So it would be nice if they can come down over here and answer those questions.
Thank you. Any final reports from council?
Is it too late for questions on the foundation of the CM building?
Okay, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Adie, seconded by Councillor Cunningham. All in favor? Means adjourned. Thank you.